afternoon.
All right, it sounded so good back here with Larry Dunn. So much fun. Last time we're together again to finish this thing out right. So thanks again, Larry, for spending the time and joining me again.
My pleasure.
When we last left off our exciting episode, our hero was talking about That's the Way of the World. And so we're going to move it on to a little bit of gratitude right now and keep it moving. One of my favorite, maybe my favorite live record of all time. I mean, when this thing came out, I could not listen to it enough. It's got the 3 sides live and one studio side, and included, of course, Sing a Song, smash hit on the studio part. And at least until maybe up until your solo record, the definitive version of Reasons live, and just great stuff. So what was behind releasing this? Did you have pressure from the label to come back really quick, or was it just that things were so good you had to get it out?
Actually, I don't know. I was just like, we're going to record, and I'm like, cool, I'm there. But, you know, more than likely it was just because, you know, we were on such a roll, you know, and it was just like the perfect thing to do, because we were hot, you know, playing together every night, you know, city after city, you know, going up to overseas and what have you. So it, you know, it was perfect. You know, they had the recording. Massenberg would come out with the recording truck outside, and it was great.
Did you know at the time that a live record was in the works, or were you just recording to record? Or?
No, it was you know, of course, to release as a live album.
And then the studio tracks, were those cut in the same sessions as That's the World stuff, or were those new sessions, or what?
Those were new sessions. Those were actually cut, you know, after we completed the tour, as an addendum to the live album, which was, you know, brilliant. It was a great idea. I don't even know. I'm sure it was Maurice's idea. I would imagine. Maybe management poked at him a little bit, but more than likely it was just, you know, like I said, a natural progress at that point.
Did you feel like the selections on there were very representative of what the tour and show was like at that time?
Absolutely. You know, I remember when the first night when it came out and they played it on, I don't know, it was Cute 102 or some station. And I was living in an apartment at that time. And I remember, you know, just, you know, you turn the lights down and then they played the entire album on the radio. And I heard the, you know, Perry Jones opening, Earth, Wind, you know, and it was on. And when it got to Sun Goddess, you know, with my solo and stuff, I'm like, yeah, it was on. And then right after that, of course, the phone starts lighting up. And, hey, man, that's wonderful. I agree with every word.
Well, it's just the versions were not only fantastic with the energy, but the recording quality was great. You know, the fidelity. And, you know, how did Sing a Song come about? Was that another one where it just kind of happened quickly, or did it take a while?
You know what? I believe Al McKay and Maurice wrote that. Did Ali Willis write? Who wrote lyrics on that? I don't remember. I don't have it in front of me.
It's only credited to Maurice and Al.
Okay, so I guess Maurice must have wrote the lyrics, and we just kind of, you know, Al had the of course, the rhythm and the chordal progression, and we kind of, you know, went over it in the studio and laid the track. And then I remember after one of the takes, as I was walking away from the roads, I was standing up and I still was playing whatever nonsense. And when I heard it on the radio, Maurice actually kept that. And I was like, oh man, I was just messing around. He was like, And I grew to love it. But when I first heard it, I'm like, no, I was just messing around. So
Oh, it definitely
it's whatever.
Definitely adds to it right before the horns really come in hard again.
Right.
Yeah.
But that was on what I'm talking was on the fade. As it was fading, and I don't know, I just I was just jerking around, and
Okay.
like I said, as now it's history, be it good or be it bad, and I didn't really like the record. I don't know why, but it was so much fun to do live. Because when I first heard the record, maybe because I still had that bad taste in my mouth about me walking away from the roads and clowning. But apparently quite a few people do like it. And like I said, it was I really fell in love with it when we played it live.
Yeah, well, the studio version, I mean, could you understand at the time what Maurice was saying? it's tough.
What is funny? I told my band when I started doing some of the Larry Dunn's anthology of Earth, Wind, and Fire, that I said I was there, like 12 years, whatever, and half the time I didn't know what they were saying because most of the stuff that I wrote was music, not the lyrics, minus a couple of things like "Be Ever Wonderful." I'm not "Be Ever Wonderful." "See the Light," but almost everything else, I didn't really get heavy into lyrics until after I left Earth, Wind, and Fire. I started writing with Louisa. But
I love the stuff.
What lyric are you talking about in there?
Oh, just the verses, I mean, are just, it's hard to understand some of what he's saying. It's just
the only part that I really remember is when you feel down and out, sing a song, it'll make your day. You will learn to shout. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so.
Sing a song, it'll make your way. Sometimes it's hard to tell, or sometimes was that it? What was next?
Yeah, I don't know. He starts running them together, but it's just the sound. The sound was so cool. So,
well, good old Massenburg, the genius of George Massenburg.
Were there ever times where you laid something down and then he got his hands on it and you were just kind of floored by how it had changed?
Yeah, well, you know what? Songs like Jupiter, I wrote the music for that, me and Maurice, and I think Philip and them wrote the lyrics. Maurice wrote the lyrics, I believe. But I have my buddy Michael Hudson that I grew up with since I was 2 years old in Denver. And after we, cut the basic tracks, I get out the studio, and sometimes I go by his pad and just cool out, relax, and I play the tracks. And he said, "Wow, that's almost like rock and roll, man." He said, "It's just so raw." But after a few years of him being able to privileged to hear the basic track before the vocals and all that stuff, but he kind of knew. He said, "Well, I know when Maurice gets done with it, it's not going to be that raw like that." And of course, it wasn't. But it had a good spit shine on it, so it worked, obviously.
Was there anything on the studio tracks from Gratitude that you particularly, liked if you didn't like singing the song so much?
Everything. I mean, I remember Skip Scarborough composed "Can I Love," and I remember I took the cassette home that night and got in the studio, just me messing around on the Fender Rhodes, and I was so excited the next morning to go to the studio, and Mr. Stebney, "Hey, Charles, let me show you the voices I came up with." And it was like, of course, he had the. Fire stuff. And he was like, yeah, boy, you done good. And that was another feather in my cap. And Mr. Stepney said, I done good. I did good. I done good. Larry Dunn done good.
That was a good flow to it.
Yes. That was everybody. I love that tune. And then what was the other ones?
Celebrate, title track.
Yeah, because I was part writers on that. And then the last one was, wait, don't tell me. Celebrate. Okay, tell me.
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Yeah.
Yeah, there was, like I said, it was a brilliant album. I would run into people, you know, driving by in the cars, or we'd roll down the window, or people in the grocery store or whatever. And years later, they're like, man, I'm on my second Gratitude because I wore the first one out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a real tentpole for Earth, Wind and Fire, doing a live album like that, and it just like Beloit Taylor used to say when I recorded his voice, and whatever he'd hear in my little studio 8-track, he'd go, man, your sound is so crispy, crunchy, and you know, so a lot of that I did learn from Massenburg, you know, because he came by my studio a couple of times, little 8-track studio. I had a big room built like a dodo and had an 8-track machine in there. That was actually a TIAC, and I ran into the guys from TIAC at the NAMM show, and there's some talk about they might want to do a story on me. So that was really cool. But Massenburg came by and he's like, hey man, I love you. Man, I love the sound you're getting. And especially your bass sound. He's like, no man, I'm not bull crapping you. He said, you know, it's not what you have, it's what you do with it. And you know, I always tell people when I do lectures or whatever that 90%, if not 99% of whatever it is you do, from being a doctor to whatever, is concept. Concept is everything.
A lot of groups and acts put out live records in the 70s, but I think most of them, it was more common with the rock acts, you know, that were in that, you know, and not as many R&B or pop black acts put out live records. Of course, there's some exceptions, but I think the fact that Earth, Wind and Fire did it and did it so well, maybe the best. And I think that helped really add to the growing mythology of Earth, Wind and Fire as this very special group.
Absolutely. And I think the thing that was so great about it is that with the you know, just the tightness and the talent and the compositions with the band and the whole live show being so intense, you know, with like I said, the Faison with the choreography, and Doug Henning with the magic stuff, and Bill Witten with the outfits. I mean, just everything. And again, with the genius of Massenburg, that everything was just recorded so well and then mixed so well that I think people who had never seen us live could feel that energy in the high level that the whole thing was actually on. And I believe a lot of people that had not ever seen us live, after hearing Gratitude, were like, I want to go.
Oh yeah.
And so it was a win-win situation.
Well, I have a lot of gratitude for that record. So in hindsight, or retroactively, I thank you for all these years since its making.
Thank you. Like I always tell people, I said, look, if it wasn't for the people who enjoy your art and support you, we'd be a legend in our own mind. And that's why I would always take time. And Leonard Smith, the road manager, and Reese would be like, go get Larry. Where's Larry? Because they're already in the car, and I'm still out there signing the people's stuff. Like, go get Larry. But no, I always, have a reverence and a thankful spirit towards those who listen and who buy it.
Well, that is a good move into spirit, since you
Hey,
brought that up. So the next record, of course, was this one, and some changes happened within the ranks related to this record. Just so folks viewing are up to speed, it had Getaway. Led off with Getaway was, I think, the lead single, an amazing track, another milestone. On Your Face, fantastic track. Saturday Night, Imagination, just another really great record. So what happened around this record, Larry?
well, that was it was great, but it was rough because in the middle of that is when Charles Stepney passed away, right in the middle. Because I actually had written the music for this song, and I gave it to Maurice. About 3 years later, he called me and told me that, he said, remember that song you gave me? I said, I gave you a few. He's like, well, I wrote lyrics to it, and I'm going to use it for the new album. I call it Spirit. I'm like, hey, cool, great. And it was deep because the night that I finished that, it was just the roads. And let's see. Anyway,
Beautiful.
I finished it, and back in the day, it didn't matter. We were teenagers basically, and cats would stop by 2 in the morning. Hey, what's up? What's up? Fortunately for you, I am so. But I got really down, and I didn't, I didn't get it because most people, even know I could be a goofball, and I couldn't figure it out. And 3 years later, that's when Maurice called me and said, I'm going to use it for the title track of the new album called Spirit. I'm like, cool. About 3 weeks after we spoke on the phone, we were actually at Hollywood Sound recording the basic track that day for this song. And lo and behold, I get a phone. Larry, you got a phone call. I'm in the lobby. There's no cell phones unless you were FBI. And it said, Charles Stepney just passed away of a heart attack. He was 45. And we were all in shock. But the fact was, the puzzle was solved. 3 years earlier, the night I finished that track, that was just on the roads, and I got depressed. Now it all came clear. So it was a heck of a blow. But we did what we had to do and finished the album. But there was absolutely a cloud over that entire thing, that time period.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe Charles was in the middle of the arrangement, strings and horns, the orchestra for that, when he passed, which was really deep.
That's heavy, man. So you guys soldiered on and finished it.
Absolutely. And then I believe on the next one, we just went in heavy because, time had passed and we knew what we had to do. And we just went in heavy on All in All. And everybody reached down deep and pulled out everything that we had learned from Charles, everything that we learned from Maurice, and stuff we had done even before we got with the band, whatever. Everybody just reached in, and there you go. That's why I tell people that, they're all great. It's like somebody saying, who's your favorite child? And if you're an idiot, you say, well, Scott. And then Larry and Louise are standing there going, "Really, Mom, Dad?" Well, but of course, Last Days and Times was awesome because that was the first one for me. Then everything was still great. Then That's the Way of the World, simply because #1 shining star, #1 pop, #1 R&B, huge crossover and huge success. So that was another tentpole. And then, but then all in all, because like I said, that's the first one that we had to do without Step. And I mean, I was always involved on every project, but this one, I did a lot of the writing, actually rehearsed and did some of the writing at my studio. And actually, I still have some of those recordings on half-inch, 8 tracks. Freddie was playing my little $150 drum set that I bought from a pawn shop. Al, Maurice, Verdine would come by every day, and we just went in on it. And then Maurice actually gave myself and Verdine production assistant credits as well. So with the music, whole music, then I had introduced Maurice to Eddie Del Barrio, and they wrote Fantasy. So that brought a little bit more classical in because we already had everything else, R&B, pop, jazz, funk, gospel, you name it. And so now with Eddie and with Fantasy, that put some deep classical in it. And so all in all, it's absolutely one of my favorite Earth, Wind & Fire pieces of all time, for many reasons. Like I just,
Yeah, well, we're in total agreement, Larry. I mean, it was my favorite. When it came out, I was just blown away. I mean, Serpentine Fire let it off. Just tremendous track. And yeah, for me, this one just closely ahead of That's the Way of the World. Phenomenal record. Also had not only Fantasy and Jupiter, which you mentioned, but Magic Mind was a really cool track. And Would You Mind? Great slow song. Skip Scarborough. And the interludes, I'll Write a Song for You. I mean, gosh, it's like, it doesn't stop. Incredible record.
And the hits just keep on coming.
They did.
You Have a Wonderful.
Yep.
Yeah. Good stuff, Maynard. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, Serpentine Fire too was kind of like, it was as funky as Shining Star, but it was different,
Yeah, it was just poop hot, as they say. And hey, yes. So it doesn't say on there though, huh?
It doesn't. This cover though too kind of started a new look for the group with its artwork. So it's the same artist after this that did the subsequent covers, right?
Yeah. What was his name? Because I think he passed away. Did he pass away?
He's a Japanese guy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I believe he passed away a few years ago.
When you guys completed this, of course, you were still mourning the loss of Charles, but did you feel like, wow, we had really accomplished something doing it maybe in his honor, but without him?
Absolutely. Like I said, everybody reached deep and pulled out all the stops, like I said, all the stuff that I learned from him. Just wonderful gold nuggets of musical wisdom that I was able to be blessed and get from Charles.
All right, Larry, I don't know how you're going to feel about this, but I'm just going to be honest, so I hope that's cool. To me, 77 and All in All was like the height of Earth, Wind & Fire.
Absolutely.
After that, for me, especially being a
high five, high five,
a funk fan, there was a definite drop off, even though it was a huge hit to I Am for me musically. So it didn't have the same teeth and the same level of soul to me that that the other ones did. So how do you feel about that, and what changed?
So on I Am, I was interviewed by the Zimmerman twins, two guys that worked with Philip Bailey on Philip's book, and they had posed the same question like you did about my favorite. And again, like I told you, I said it was like a dumb parent that says, "Who's your favorite child, Scott, Luis, or Larry?" And they say Scott, and then we feel like crap. But it's a little bit different musically, but not whatever. Philip had said, and they told me that Philip had said that his favorite was I Am. And I said, now, it depends on how you're going to gauge. If you're gauging it on a monetary thing, yes. It's, you know, because we were still rising, and it probably outsold All in All. All in All was 77. I said, but on a musical level for me, exactly like you had said, it was a little bit more homogenized. It was a little bit more slick than I was used to. And, you know, I spoke with Maurice because he had a thing about, you know, we're going to cross over. I'm like, hey, dude, we crossed over a long time ago. And and a lot of my musical friends that I had worked with and produced with, Larry Dunn, Foley, a lot of different people, even Foley later on down the road. But, you know, we spoke about it. And it was like a lot of that rawness, like you said, like Serpentine Fire, and even back on Last Days of Time, Build Your Nest, and, you know, Raw Dog. This stuff was like,
Yeah.
And like I said, nothing against it. It was a great album, great music, but it just absolutely, it had lost a lot of that, the raw dog, the real funk that Earth, Wind & Fire was known for. And to me, it was just a little bit overproduced.
Mm-hmm.
It said good music, it was. Old school Earth, Wind & Fire, it wasn't. Successful, it was. But I'm totally concurring with you as far as that's just how I felt about it.
Well, good. You know, at the time I looked at it and I thought, who are all these other people that I never saw working with Earth, Wind & Fire before? And are they the ones kind of, is that why the edge is kind of off, you know?
Right. Absolutely.
But, you know, like you said, I mean, it sold gangbusters, and it had the hits Boogie Wonderland, and the ballad was a huge hit, After the Love Is Gone. But yeah, there wasn't that really killer funk track on this one, like all the other ones had at least one.
Right. And
Yeah.
I remember first, you know, it was the disco era, and Boogie Wonderland, Al McKay was going to produce it on a band he was producing called the Curtis Brothers, and they didn't want it or something. And so Verdine and I told Reese, maybe we should do it. And Reese was like, no, because, you know, we don't do disco. And we were like, well, you know, a lot of that is going on now, but, you know, we just put our twist on it like we do with everything. Every outside song that we get, put our own twist on it. And we did. And I didn't even realize until years later, when I just maybe 4 or 5 years ago, when I started doing Larry's anthology of EWF, that I actually came up with that. And I remember John Lynn telling me after we had cut it, he said, now that's my favorite part of the song. You know, because I was thinking, well, maybe that's just like comes under arrangement. But then I started relearning it to do it live with my band. And I'm like, wait, that goes throughout the entire song. But the ship had sailed. And but it was I mean, it was a great hit, especially with the emotions. You know, it was ginormous.
Yeah.
And it was fun to do live. And but it was in that same thing as Let's Groove. Because even Maurice on that, he's like, man, that thing was something else, because he didn't expect it to go big like that. But I guess it was a new era, and the sound of the vocoder. Michael Boddicker brought his vocoder in, and then so Maurice did the words, and I played the notes, and lo and behold, people fell in love with it. But that was a whole lot of people on your team that was like, that ain't Earth, Wind and Fire. But again, you got to admit, it was a great song. Both of those were great songs, and they are absolutely classics at this point. But it comes to a fork in the road where the hardcore EWF fans, weren't having it. But again, it still is part of the legacy.
Absolutely.
And the good news about all of this is that there's nothing from this point we're talking about, even Let's Groove back, that any member of Earth, Wind and Fire can say, man, I'm embarrassed of that. It was still all great music. And then, but we'll go forward, and I'll tell you about where I would say that.
All right. Well, speaking about the emotions, I want to quickly touch on that, because that was around the time when the guys, including yourself, played on their records and worked with them, and also Denise Williams, and who else am I forgetting?
Ramsey
Lewis, of course. So, do you have any particular memories about working with some of them, and how did you enjoy that experience?
It was all good. It was all great. The emotions, I remember Freddie, myself, Verdine, and Al all flew to Chicago, and Maurice, of course. And we cut the basic tracks for Flowers, their first album. Well, not their first album, but their first album under ARC with Maurice. And I think it was like 3 days or something. We cutting like 2 or 3 tracks a day. And then we got our butts on that plane, came back to LA. Maurice stayed there, and they put the vocals on with the girls. They mixed it, and it was great. Really, back, very sweet people, very humble, down to earth, and some singing mother figures. And of course, Ramsey. Now, I didn't play on Sun Goddess, Ramsey's version. That was written by Maurice and Charles, I believe. And so, there was no need for me to be on that. But it was great doing it on Gratitude, because I got to do the solo. And but I did a lot of work for and with Ramsey. The first one being Tequila Mockingbird, and that was just unbelievable. And that was actually our dear brother who passed last week, Ndugu.
Yeah, very sad. Yeah.
Verdine White on bass, Al McKay on guitar, and me on Rhodes, and Ramsey on acoustic. Eddie Del Barrio and I did the horns. Jorge Del Barrio, his older brother, the great string arranger, did the strings, and I mixed it. I did 3 songs. I produced Tequila Mockingbird, and I wrote that solely. That old Bach Magic was written by me and Eddie Del Barrio, Eddie and I. And I've never been a greedy person. So Eddie had a friend that I was blessed to meet, Victor Feldman, who had a song called Skipping. So I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let him get some money, whatever. And so I just did those 3 songs, but it just took off. I mean, for years and years and years and years, they played Tequila Mockingbird on so many sports events. Oh, and Ronnie Laws. On
Ronnie, yeah.
Woo! That was just killer. And then,
reunited from the early Earth, Wind and Fire days.
Huh? Oh yeah, Last Days in Time.
Yeah.
And then I also produced an entire album on him called Routes. And then in 1987, Louisa and I did 4 songs for him on Keys to the City album, which Ramsey and I wrote the title track. Louisa and I wrote a couple of them, and then Louisa did the vocals on a song called Strangers, and my brother Steven played the drums. And yeah, I did 4 songs. I forgot who did the other 4, and then Maurice did the other side. So that was cool. So I always enjoyed and loved working with Ramsey because, you know, he was one of my other mentors. Because in Colorado, when we were growing up, they didn't play some of the jazz artists that I, you know, got. They didn't play a lot of jazz artists that I didn't discover until I came to California. Like I knew about Ramsey because he was more mainstream, thank God, and I knew about Herbie a little bit, but it wasn't until I came out here that I really got into McCoy Tyner and Wynton Kelly and, you know, all the different. And like I said, I was so blessed to study about 3 years with Walter Bishop Jr.
So did you play on some of those Emotions and Denise Williams hits, because they had some tremendous tracks? I mean, the Flowers record, I don't remember the hits off that, but I don't know if we're I can't think of the names right now, but they were great. And of course,
Oh yeah, you know, I can't think of it either, but yeah,
Best of My Love was one of the catchiest tracks of the whole decade.
Right. And then on the Rejoice album, that was incredible. They had Don't Ask My Neighbor. Don't Ask My Neighbor. I mean, yeah, those are, like I said, man, they are some singing girls, women, young ladies. I performed Larry's anthology at EWF at the Wiltern Theater a couple years ago. And they did 4 songs with this guy that does a Barry White imitation at them, but we had them come up and do Boogie Wonderland with us, and people went crazy. So yeah, and it was great on the road with them. You know, like I said, just good people. I remember one night I was sitting there, and this was when we finally had stuff like food after the gig, because that wasn't always so. And Jeanette was sitting next to me, and they brought the food, and you know, I said a prayer, blessed the food, and I started eating. She looked at me, she said, "Dang, you don't even give your prayer time to reach heaven." But yeah, it was great times, man. Both in the studio and on the road. A lot of work, but hey, nothing good comes from not working.
Also, Nisi. This is Nisi with Free. Very cool track. Were you on that one?
No, that was Jerry Peters played piano on that one.
Okay, that was a nice one. Yeah.
Yeah, that was fun on the road with Nisi. I was telling somebody last night that Nisi had told my wife Louisa that, you know, Larry really made that tour tolerable for us, because, you know, we'd come to the room and we would laugh and do different stuff and have fun, and you know, because touring is tough, and especially for a woman, you know, because women have a lot of stuff to do.
Yeah, yeah. That first Ronnie Laws you were on was Fever, or were you on his first record?
The first one was
Always There, or Pressure Sensitive.
No, the first one for me, and his only gold album was Friends and Strangers.
Okay, yeah. Well, it had the title hit on it.
That was awesome, and I remember it because it was produced by Wayne Henderson, and I remember just going in there. I had my ARP 2600, my Mini Moog, my Fender Rhodes, and my Steiner Parker, little garage outfit from Utah. And I would just keep going and give me another track, give me another track, give me another track. And Wayne was just there like, "Man, you're a genius, man. You're a genius." Thank you. Give me another track. Give me another track. And you know, this was all before sequencers, so it was just live Remembrix. It was live, And then I remember Eloise Laws, she said, "Oh my God, I love that album." She said, "But my favorite is Just Love." And what that was is Chris Brunt set us up. I had my Fender Rhodes 88, and then Ronnie was, over there in the other room next to me. I could see him. And we just played. And then after Ronnie finished, that he just took a break. And again, with me and Chris, give me another track, give me another track. And I painted all those colors around it. So that was all just myself and Ronnie.
Now, why did Ronnie leave Earth, Wind & Fire? He just wanted to be his own act?
That, yeah. And him and Roland Bautista were kind of like, I don't know. They weren't really that sure about it. So, but he did very well.
Yeah.
Doing well. So.
All right. So after I Am, a couple of years went by. You guys did the, some other stuff one-offs here and there, and then Faces. Was the 2-record set, the big comeback in 1980 with 2 records, but didn't really hit like Maurice hoped it would. What was your memories of this, and how would you sum up this record?
Short and sweet, sweet and short, or sweet and sour. Well, that I always tell people, number one, 1980. Okay, this is the Reagan years starting. And it was almost an atmosphere of, okay, look, you black people had your dashikis and your afros, and you hippies had your love, peace, and joy, and your drugs and whatever. Now, to me, it started the era of, what about me? What about me? It's all about me. It's all about me. Corporate mentality and all this. So, and there was a lot of great music on that. Maybe that was a mistake, giving them too much. And again, with record companies, I don't care who you are. You're only as good as your last hit or whatever. And so there were so many things working against it at that time that I just think a lot of it got lost in the shuffle. However, it's in here somewhere. I know I got a platinum album from it. I don't know if it went. I don't think it went double platinum, but I'm pretty sure it went platinum. I know it went gold for sure, but I think it may have went platinum. And it was fun cutting it. We were down in Montserrat, George Martin studio, the guy that used to produce the Beatles. Beautiful studio. And Massenburg, every break we would take, he had a 6-inch thick book about the binary code, zeros and ones, and every 5-minute, 2-minute, 30-minute break we would take, he was all in there. That's when he was designing, which now every studio in the world has GML something in there, be it a reverb unit or a compressor or EQ or something like that. Yeah, maybe not reverb, but whatever. And George Massenburg Laboratories. And so it was fun. Let Me Talk, I think. I remember we were cutting that when David Foster had flown in, and he walked in the studio, and we were cutting that, and he was like, "Oh my God, that's so funky." And but yeah, it just, for some reason, like I said, it was changing time. And
no, that was on a different record.
But Let Me Talk.
Changing Time was on it.
Oh yeah. B. Lloyd Taylor, God rest his soul. Yeah. But yeah, it was a quandary because, like I said, I remember Maurice was so happy with those tracks. I remember one night, because we had these big houses that we were staying in. I think there was 2. Some of the people stayed there. It was me, Maurice, Freddie, and one other person. I don't know if it was Redina, in one of these houses. And I remember one night after we recorded and had dinner, and we were listening to the stuff. Maurice like, "Man, all you guys, Freddie, Larry," he said, "you guys are playing." He's funny. He said, "You guys are playing exactly what I would play if I played your instrument." So I'm pretty sure it was a compliment. It's great music, so who knows? But that's when, after that, or on that album, that's when we actually made that transition and we started getting publishing. you know, like I said, with record companies, you're only as good as your last hit.
So was it a little demoralizing at the time?
Not for me. I'm sure Reese wasn't happy about it. And like I said, I thought it was going to do better than it did. But then, like I said, you put everything in perspective. Because for a record exec, their mindset is, well, hey, what the hell? You guys had a great run. For real artists like that, it's like, whatever, dude.
Like you said, 1980, I mean, that was a definite change in the culture, in music. So many changes were happening then, and you guys hit a speed bump, but you recovered pretty well. A lot of groups did not recover so well. You guys were resilient, and I think this was the next one, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So, Raise. And you came back with another big hit with Let's Groove was on here, yeah. Yeah.
Now that's when Al had departed, and Renee and I talked. So I brought Roland Bautista, called him, and he was eager. He was cool, so he came back. Very great guitarist.
Yeah, that's the one that had Changing Times that I just mentioned. Yeah.
Right, B. Lloyd Taylor. And again, that was a great album. We had the hit Let's Groove, but again, where was the Earth, Wind & Fire writers? Because I didn't write anything on that. I don't think Verdine wrote anything on that. I don't think Philip wrote anything on that. I don't know. I'm not sure, but it's just.
Philip has a credit on only on I've Had Enough. That's it.
Oh, he wrote the lyrics to that. Greg Fillinganes actually wrote the music for that.
Yeah.
I played on it, but like I said, again, we're getting to that point where it's like great music it is. Earth, Wind & Fire it is, but it's different.
It was kind of like, for lack of a better way to put it, I would say it was kind of like Earth, Wind & Fire light in a way.
Earth, Wind & Fire light?
Yeah.
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 Fewer calories, but
more easily digestible.
It's like Jay King had said one time. He said, "Hey man, the real deal is, let's just get down to it. Larry and Al were to Earth, Wind & Fire's music what Maurice and Philip was to the vocals of Earth, Wind & Fire." And so, it's like that with any intricate machine. You take out one of the key components and it's going to change. Sometimes it may change for the better. Sometimes, more than likely not, especially when you're talking about a creative aggregation like that. Like they say, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Well, Larry, at that time, so the records were a little bit different at that time. Was the live performance any different than it had been, say, in the All in All or earlier time frame?
Yeah, of course. I remember we did one tour, and Maurice brought the 3 female singers to fill in, help strengthen the backgrounds. But again, I mean, they were lovely ladies and great singers, but it just, the show was still awesome, though. It was an awesome show. But I remember Verdine one time going off because poor singers, it's hard to sing if you can't hear yourself. It's hard to do anything if you can't hear yourself. And so I remember one time we were doing sound check or something, and one of the ladies had said, "Look, can the band come down?" And Verdine just lost it. It's like, "Look, this ain't about you guys. This is about Earth, Wind & Fire." They're like, "Okay, settle down, everyone." But it was had a different texture, because let's face it, on the recordings, yeah. Somebody said I look like Sammy Davis Jr. on the got cross eyes. That's a funny picture. You had to find that, didn't you?
Well, you remember this?
Oh yeah. don't know who did that artwork.
So I think this is what I want to say. This was from 78 or 79. Do you remember? Yeah. So I got this at the show.
What
But
songs were we playing?
I was shattered, I got to tell you, because it was a great show. Everything was perfect, blown away totally, but no shining star.
No Shining Star?
You guys didn't play it.
Wow, I don't remember that at all.
It says here, Earth, Wind, and Fire, Tour of the World, 1979.
Yeah, and that's the one where, remember, there was 9 cylinders across the stage. They were hidden up under black cloth, and then I had created the space sounds and the rumbling and the blah, and they started descending, and then they touched down on the stage, and the light flickered. You could see straight through it. Then the light went out for a second, came back on, and there were 9 people. And then the tubes lifted, and they had capes on. Everybody went to their respective places, and then we jumped it off. And then that's the one where Verdine levitated on the mic stand, right?
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, I can see him.
Yeah.
And then at the very end, the gold pyramid came down from the sky, and there were 6 androids that had these big helmets that looked like heads, and they had these big spotlights, and they were shining it on the golden pyramid that was descending. And they drug out a little table that was very thin with some stairs on it. And at the end of Getaway, whatever it was, or whatever we were playing, Maurice, Philip, Andrew, Al, Johnny, Ralph, 6 people from the front line would go up the little steps and open the little gold door on the pyramid and go inside. Then it started going up in the air and going up, and then I hit the explosion, and the whole thing fell apart. There was no one in it. And then the 6 androids that rolled out the table went to the front of the stage and took their hats off, and it was Maurice and the guys that got in the pyramid. And people said, I've never been to a concert where everybody walked to their car silent because they were clapping, and it was like unbelievable.
Yeah. Yeah, like I say, it was a incredible
show. We
show.
didn't do Shining Star, though.
Yeah.
You're sure we didn't do it, right?
Well, I was screaming my lungs out for it the whole time, so no.
Okay, then you must be sure. Wow, that is so weird.
All
right, so that one was the next to the last one. The last one with all the original members minus Al, that we brought rolling back, was 1982, and that one was the raised her when we did Let's Groove. We closed with Let's Groove.
Okay, and then this was the next Power Light.
And so there was no more touring after that, right? No.
I don't remember you guys coming my way after that.
No, I don't think. No, I don't remember being there either. So, no, the last one was 1982. So that Power Line was after 82.
It was 82 is its copyright.
Wow. So, what was there a hit on there?
Yeah, Fall in Love with Me.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, actually, I heard that in the store the other day. Okay, yeah. And that was the hit, right? And then, so, again, if you look at it, there's no Earth, Wind, and Fire writers on. Well, not really.
Yeah, Side by Side was a little bit of a hit.
Which one?
Side by Side. Do you remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The bus had taken a left turn.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then we have, so there was no tour on that. And then we have
your favorite one.
Electric You. Hey, don't start that rumor. Then people. So Larry, is it true you said no? Oh no. Hey. Even though I was the youngest one in the band, well, I mean, it wasn't until Freddie came in. Freddie was a few months younger, but whatever. Basically, I was the youngest one in the band, musical director at 21, and always known for running my mouth and telling it like a TI is. And so, yeah, I didn't get it. You know, Maurice didn't use the Phoenix horns. Matter of fact, no horns. And I think one of the biggest mistakes I ever made was, you know, because I had that little $150 drum set and I couldn't really play. And it was, you know, just enough to try to get by. You almost get to the end of the song and I go to the machine. Run back to the drums. Almost get to the end of the song. Back to the machine. So I got a DMX, the drum machine.
Mm-hmm.
Big mistake. I mean, it's a wonderful tool for me because I'm not a drummer. So that was alleviated all that nonsense of trying to play the drums. So I brought it and Maurice saw it, programmed the beat. He said, man, that thing's to play just like me. I'm like, it's just a computer. And Verdine had it right. I remember Verdine walking by and he wouldn't have. He said, man, that MF ain't got no plasma in it. I'm like, true that, true that. And so, you know, here we go, Electric Universe. We have these two guys, Brian and somebody from England, and all this super poppy material. And they had all these other keyboard players. And I, you know, at the end of the day, I think I ended up playing almost everything anyway. And with the other guys. And you know, there was a couple of nice stuff on there. Michel Colombier, great composer, whatever, but all this stuff going on. And so when it was done, DONE, I took it home and I came back the next day and I told Maurice, I said, man, I took it home last night and had a few great listens. I listened up, you know, thoroughly. I looked at him, I said, good music, it is. Earth, Wind, and Fire, it ain't. And of course, he probably wasn't very happy. And then on top of that, they spent almost $250,000 doing that magnetic video downtown at the Bradbury Building, utilizing the vehicles from Blade Runner and you know, futuristic thing. And it turned out number 99 with an anchor. And I believe it was in that book about the music industry called Hitman. You don't hold me to it, but I believe there is that story in there when Reese cussed out Walter Yetnikoff because Walter was like, oh, you know, you guys, you haven't had a major thing, like, you know, so you just hold off till after the holidays, you know, because it's the fourth quarter, you know, if we wait, then we'll put it out. And Maurice had some choice words for him, and they put it out. And again, like I said, it was number 99 with an anchor, and left a lot of Earth, Wind, and Fire fans bewildered, along with myself. I'm sure Verdine and yourself, yes. So that was about it. That was the beginning of the end as we knew it. And then in '87, Maurice, you know, actually, we had a meeting, and I remember Roland Bautista and Freddie didn't show because they didn't think it was going to be worth it. So I went, and Philip wasn't there. He was in Japan. And, you know, and Maurice just said, hey, Columbia doesn't want an album from us. They want me to do my solo album. I was very supportive. I said, hey, man, you do what you got to do. And that was about it.
Yeah, and the solo record didn't make much of a ripple, but then in '87 they came back with I think it's Touch the World. Is that the name?
Yeah, '87 he called me and they tried to put the band back together, and Al reneged and just it wasn't right. And I had already been with my wife Louisa since '83, and we had our own company, and we were doing music for Japanese television. Really great stuff. We could stay at home. We did everything from hip hop to jazz hip hop kind of to Beloy Taylor did an excellent Louis Armstrong, and we did quite a few songs using that. And then Roland Bautista was with us, so and even we did one after that with just me and Louisa with Straight Ahead Opera with Louisa and our good friend Beppe Cantarelli doing Straight Ahead Opera. So great, because when you remember Earth, Wind and Fire, he does Earth, Wind and Fire-ish, or he does R&B, and dude, You know, I've been playing piano since I was 2 years old. So if it's music, more than likely we can do it. Maybe some stuff I can't do, but most of the stuff, everything they asked for, they loved it. So we were really having a great time with that. And so it wasn't right. And so Maurice finally put the band back together, or put a band together. And then legacy continues. And like I said, now Philip and Verdine, and Ralph, they go all over the world. And they got some guys, and I've met them, I've sat in with them, and they're all good guys, good players. John Paris, the drummer, Sweetie Pie, he actually played on a couple of tracks for Luis's new project. And they go all over the world and play. But what are they playing? They're playing the vintage Earth, Wind and Fire. Nothing from Powerlight, nothing from none of that. And they go all over the world and get new generations and old generations and play the classics and keep the legacy alive and go to the P.O. box and pick up a check occasionally.
Yeah, yeah. Were there any of the things that they did from System Survival on that that impressed you? And also, did you do anything on any of the subsequent albums?
No. Like Foley said, he said Larry was like Oscar, or what's he, Felix Unger, left never to return again. Because I get that a lot. God bless people. And Larry, man, how come you're not back with Earth, Wind and Fire? And don't you? And I said, no, I have no desire to do that. I said, I love them. Verdine came to our show, and God bless it and blessed us. And him and his wife Shelley and Maurice's widow, as it were, Marilyn, that had his Cabron firstborn, was there, and tons of people came up on the stage. Hubert Laws and took photos after we did the gig, Larry's anthology of everything. And Marilyn said, she said, I was in tears, And but like I said, people, why don't you want to be back with us? I said, they're doing a great job of keeping the legacy alive, but for me, I just have to keep growing musically. And the main thing is I was there when I could look straight ahead and see Maurice. I could look over here and see Verdine and Al. I could look over here and see Johnny and Andrew and the Phoenix Horns, Louis and Don and Rom and Mike and B. Lloyd back there. So, I tell people, I'll tell you what, you find the gal that you thought you was in love with when you were 19 or 18. Mm-hmm. And if she's dead, resurrect her. If she's with a family, snatch her away from there, whatever, and just make it work. Make it work. And then you'll see me back with Earth, Wind and Fire.
Wow. So you guys, of course, did get some very special honors in the subsequent years, and that includes the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Was that something that was meaningful to you, and are these awards meaningful, and what do you remember about that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, man, I mean, like I tell people, excuse me, I said, I thank God Almighty for all accolades. And it was awesome. I mean, it was 2000, and it was the first time the 9 originals had been together in 20 years or more. So that was totally awesome. And we played together, and it was great. But I tell people, as great as that is, and like I said, I'm not downplaying anything. That is so awesome. But the one that's one of the most coveted for me, because it's not Earth, Wind and Fire per se, it was the 5 key writers from within the group, members, Maurice, myself, Al McKay, Verdine White, and Philip Bailey, in 2010 were inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame. And that's a big one, because it's not, again, not downplaying anything, but it's not saying that just you were a member of a famous group. It says you were a songwriting mother figure. And so that one is like, that one. And then last year or the year before now, geez, the original 9 again received the Lifetime Achievement Grammy. So there you have it. And again, Al and I and Freddie all showed up and then played with them. It was a PBS special. So hey, it's all awesome, you know, because these are accolades that were received. I call it the house that Jack built. You know, these are still all things that are coming in and given to the original members who really helped build the legacy.
Congratulations on all that. So well deserved, Larry.
Thank you.
So were you in touch much with Maurice in his later years? And, you know, was his passing unexpected, and how did that go down for you?
Yeah, it was always unexpected. I mean, I knew that he was struggling. He was struggling for a long time. I think even when he, you know, towards the end when we were still together, it had started, and he just kind of kept it to himself. And then I know when he went back out with the new people in the 90s, you know, he'd already been on medication, I believe. But it's always a shock. I remember Janet Bailey, Philip's ex-wife, had called me and told me Maurice passed this morning. You know, matter of fact, excuse me, a girlfriend of ours posted 2 days ago on the 4th. Larry Dunn gave such a moving speech at Maurice's memorial, and they had it playing on Facebook. But yeah, I mean, the last time that we really hung was when he was executive producer for Brian Culbertson's album, Bringing Back the Funk. And he had asked me if I still had contact with Ronnie Laws, because he wanted Ronnie to play on something for Brian. So I called Ronnie, and you know, he looked great. He was doing fine then, and but damn, that was already what, 5 years ago or 6 years ago. And I think that's about that might be the last time I saw him. And yeah, that's right, because he didn't come to the Songwriters Hall of Fame. Ralph went and collected for him. So it was a shock, you know, because I said we did so much great things, and him and I, like I said, him being a drummer, that great sense of rhythm and great producer, and then me being a keyboard player, and we were born Juneteenth, which is June 19th, the celebrated Emancipation holiday, and he was December 19th. So we're 6 months to the day, not the year, but to the day. And we wrote some incredible music, and we performed all over the world.
What a legacy.
Absolutely. I'm very blessed.